Welcome to Expedition Networking, a special segment of the Networking RX podcast. I'm Frank Agan, founder and president of AmSpirit Business Connections and your host for this program. For those of you who are familiar, on the Networking RX podcast, we share information and have conversations with experts, such as authors, researchers, and social scientists. And all of these programs are aimed at helping you learn how to become better at building professional relationships and understanding why they work. In this Expedition Networking segment, however, we're going to bring on successful entrepreneurs and unique professionals and explore their networking adventure and learn how they used relationships to create lasting success. Today on Expedition Networking, we have Tracy Enos. Tracy is a single mother of four. And she'll tell you that LinkedIn saved her career back in 2015. She overcame third-degree burns and 5 surgeries in 9 months, depression, anxiety, weight gain. But she's going to kind of share with us, how she's gone from that to kind of being this LinkedIn guru. We'll certainly pick her brain a little bit about LinkedIn. But Tracy, welcome to the program.
Hey, Frank, thank you so much for having me today. I'm excited to be here.
Well, I know you're excited. People can't see, but there's a big, it's to call it a cup of coffee.
It's a mug.
It's like a giant German beer stein of coffee.
Well, it looks bigger in the photo than it really is, but
okay.
Yes.
It's and I'm telling you right now, it's 3:20 p.m. Eastern time. I guess it's 2:20 Central time, right? Your Central time.
Right.
And so she's ready to go. So let's hear this story.
All right. Well, I'd already been on LinkedIn years prior to this traumatic event, but it really wasn't until that event that I realized that the foundation prior to the event was the most important piece of me saving my career, really. Look, hot boiling water at 5:30 in the morning and bare feet and tired as all get out and a colander that comes right back at you with hot water in it is not a good recipe.
So what happened? Can you share that? Or?
Well, sure. So if you guys can visualize this, my stove is about 6 feet away across the kitchen from my sink. And me being the lazy girl that I am, did not do the dishes the night before. And what I did was I put the colander on top of the dishes that were already in the sink. And not, you're 5:30 in the morning. I'm not thinking, and I'm making brown rice noodles because I was trying to get myself back in the gym. At that point, I was already 30 pounds overweight. And so I've got bare feet. I'm wearing yoga pants and my boyfriend's t-shirt, which, was kind of like a tent on me. So like the sleeves, he's a big guy. The sleeves are like past my elbows, and it was like a dress. So I had overfilled the pot. And so here I am trying not to burn my bare feet. So I'm trying to make it over to the sink as fast as I can without burning my feet. And lo and behold, as I'm trying to pour the water into the colander, the bottom of the pot hits the colander and it goes my way.
Oh.
Every bit of that boiling pot of water. And it wasn't a little pot either. So came right back at me. And man, I was burned from my left hand, my left arm, my right hand, even through the t-shirt, through my yoga pants into my groin area. And that was 2nd-degree burns down there. That's through 2 layers of clothing. And I mean, that water was hot.
Well, that's even worse because when it's going through the clothing, when it hits your skin, it kind of dissipates, right?
Yeah.
And will cool off. When it's in the clothing, it's kind of like stuck right on your skin. So, wow.
Yeah. So I'm screaming bloody murder. I wake up the house, the boyfriend and the 2 boys, and he tells him to stay at the top of the stairs as he walks downstairs. He picks me up. He's like, let's put some butter on it. I'm like, you live on a farm. You grew up on a farm. Do you not know how to get, and I'm mad at this point because I'm burning. I said, go get me in the shower, pick me up, take me in the shower, and cold water, clothes and all. And I sat in that shower for about 20 minutes till I asked him to help me get out, change clothes, and then we went to the ER. And at that point, it was really bad. I mean, they morphined me up. The doctor is cutting away already dead skin. I mean, immediately, like some of this was immediate. And he already said I had 3rd-degree burns from my left arm underneath my arm for nearly my elbow to my armpit. And the right hand bubbled up. And that was 2nd-degree burns. We thought that was going to be 3rd degree, but yeah. So, I mean, it's painful. Morphine's supposed to make you feel better, right? I was vomiting. I mean, it was just that painful. So would never, want anyone to go through this type of pain ever.
Right.
Serious. So, yeah. So, I mean, and then I got some misinformation while I was in the ER. He says, you need to go see your primary care physician in a couple days. Well, and this is on a Tuesday morning. Well, my primary care physician isn't open on Friday. So
right.
I waited and I called and I got in on Monday, and she goes, are you kidding me? And she tried to clean up the burns, and she's like, I can't do this. I'm calling the burn unit right now, immediately. You have 3rd-degree burns. And the longer we wait, the worse it's going to get, because really actually it's eating at your flesh. And so they got me in Tuesday morning. I'm in the burn unit, and I take my 15-year-old son with me at the time, and he's there, and no drugs or anything, and they are just cutting away with the dead skin that they possibly can, because at this point the blisters have started to dissipate, and a couple of them popped, so. And I'm starting to cry because it's painful. And then he's crying, and I'm crying because he's crying, and never would I, want my 15-year-old to see his mom in this position like this. But the next morning they got me in, and the first surgery was cadaver skin. So I had to have like cadaver skin on for like 24 hours. And then the next day I was in major surgery. I get out of surgery and he goes, I've got bad news. And I said, okay, what's the news? He says, your 3rd-degree burns are not $half size. They are 5 inches. It was worse than we thought. And so we took the skin graft from your thigh for those burns. And you're not going to spend 2 days in the burn unit. You're going to spend 6. I was like, wow. So the information that I received from the ER, honestly, I'm not saying that I probably would have still had 3rd-degree burns, but probably not to the capacity that it happened to be.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I had 6 days in the burn unit and I'm doped up on everything, morphine, oxy, whatever. They're like recycling, each one of those back and forth just to keep me pain free. Right. And so, like the 2nd or 3rd day in, I get a phone call. Now I'm not having any visitors at this time, so nobody's telling me not to answer my phone. I'm totally doped up on morphine. And I get this call from a friend of mine that I had met at a networking event or a marketing event a couple years prior to that, and he'd been following me on LinkedIn. And his name is Bill. I just won't give you his last name. And so here he is telling me that he's got this group of folks and they want to learn how to use LinkedIn, and they want to know if I would help coach his group. And I'm like, absolutely. So we cornered down a price, $3,000. I closed a $3,000 coaching program on morphine. Now, I don't recommend anybody do that.
Sure.
I mean, doped up on morphine, and I'm closing deals. And here I am thinking, how am I going to, continue to work on my consulting business in LinkedIn, because I've got use of one arm right now, and I didn't know how long this was going to take to heal or whatnot. And so, I mean, that was a blessing in disguise, I will say this, but that wasn't the end of the trauma. So the 3rd day in, they had me go into the hyperbaric oxygen chamber. And I don't know if anybody knows what that is. I kind of heard about it. It was meant for divers.
Mm-hmm.
So then I guess when you deep dive and they come up too fast, you get too much, was it too much oxygen in your blood or something like that? You can get the sickness.
Yeah.
Or something like that. Well, anyway, they have found that the hyperbaric chamber for burn victims has actually helped them improve their what's the word I'm looking for? The time that they heal, and their burns come out a lot better looking than had they had not been in that chamber. And I was supposed to go in there like 2 or 3 times over the course of the next few days. Well, I know from years ago, I can't dive. So I can be in a plane all day long, no problems with my ears, anything like that. But I can't dive past 13 feet. My ears won't equalize and they pop.
Right.
And I feel like my head's going to explode. So I'm scared. I'm scared to get in this thing because it's supposed to be a simulated 23-foot dive. And I was like, my head going to explode, So sweet nurse came in, gave me a bottle of water. They pumped me up with some morphine before I get in there. And it's about 45 minutes and you do a dive and then you slowly come back up and it's, pure oxygen. And so everything seemed to be fine. I was like, okay, this wasn't as bad as I thought until 2:00 in the morning. I woke up and I couldn't hear. And I'm telling you, I flipped a lid. Like I have never flipped a lid like that before. And there's one nurse on the ward and there's only 6 beds in that ward. And I'm waking up the whole floor. Here I am looking for the nurse who's nowhere to be found, running up and down the hallway, screaming for her with my rear end hanging out of my gown, trying to find this nurse because I'm flipping out. And my heart rate is sky high. I think it's about ready to come out of my chest. I had a panic attack is what I did. And she brings me back in the room. When she finally gets on the floor, brings me back in the room, and she's not helpful whatsoever. Tracy, calm down. Tracy, take a big breath. And I'm screaming at her. I am doing this. It's not helping. I mean, like nothing at that point was going to calm me down whatsoever. She calls the on-call doctor and they come in and they give me some lorazepam and they shoot me up with some more stuff. And I'm telling you, I've never felt like that ever in my life. And what transpired after that was now I've got anxiety. And I've never had that anxiety. I think everybody has anxiety at some point, depending on the situation, whether they're speaking that for their first time up in front of a bunch of people, or they're doing their first Zoom call, or their first, anything new that they're doing. They have a level of anxiety, but this was to the next level. Like after all this was said and done, like I didn't want to leave my house. I became a hermit because I was so afraid of what people would think me outside of the house. Right. And from, that point, I gained like 60 pounds. I went into clinical depression. I was miserable and it was hurting my relationship with my boys. And then I mentioned that 15-year-old boy. He's so wonderful. See, I'm going to get all choked up. That boy took care of me. Never would I ask my son at 15 to take care of me. Love him to death. And, my boyfriend, I think he was scared of the situation or whatever. He didn't help at all. My 15-year-old, he was changing my dressings. He was helping me in and out of the tub. I mean, he was just a godsend. Love that kid.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, excuse me. Let me take a drink of that big old coffee I got.
All right, you do that. Now, well, what I want to do is I want to work this back over to LinkedIn and, how this, you say this LinkedIn saved your life and kind of talk about how that all happened. And
well, that foundation work I'd done prior to it, a lot of people, I believe they skip that part when they start working in LinkedIn. And I'm not saying that people can't have quick wins and, grab some low hanging fruit.
Sure.
But the foundation is what is going to sustain a business using LinkedIn, definitely. So I did that coaching program in September. And then I was honored by LinkedIn to have a beta version of writing one of the first articles out there. And they called it Pulse at the time.
Right.
And so I wrote an article in October based off of Pulse had like they had topics or a hashtag for every month. And the hashtag for this one particular month was productivity hacks. And so I wrote an article about a fella that I had seen in YouTube, and he was teaching Evernote. And then I found out that LinkedIn synced with Evernote. So I wrote an article and put in some of his videos. His name was Steve Dotto. And LinkedIn featured that in their LinkedIn tips topic. It blew up my LinkedIn. Like, I couldn't believe it. And I landed a 5-figure coaching deal out of that. So it was pretty amazing. And not to mention, see, I'd been at a marketing conference the year before in September of 2014, and I met a fellow by the name of Ed Rush. And Ed Rush asked me that very same month too, although it was in Facebook. He DM'd me in my Facebook business page asking if I'm still doing that. His exact words, "Are you still doing that LinkedIn thing?" And he gave me his personal phone number. I called it. He actually answered. And then I started working with Ed, just branding him at first, which is that foundation part I'm talking about. He goes, "Look, I know that this LinkedIn's important. I haven't been using it." He had like 260 connections at the time, or 200 some connections at the time. And he goes, "I'm working with these high level CEOs, and they're going to go and Google me. I want to make sure that I look the part.
Yeah.
Can you help me with that?" And I said, "Absolutely." So we made over his profile. And then a few months later, he's like, "Well, let's start marketing. What can we do to do that?" You know, and that became that relationship with that. So LinkedIn was really, really good to me, just because I've been working in LinkedIn consistently since 2012. And, you know, I didn't grow as fast as some people did, because they had some of those hacks. Like, you could go to this list. I think it was top something list. I can't even remember the name. And if you added your name, then people get your email address, and then you upload this list to LinkedIn, and everybody's supposed to connect with you and not say, "I don't know this person." Well, actually got me in hot water. That's why I grew slower than everybody else. And I had too many "I don't knows." And that was back when LinkedIn actually emailed you and said, "You're suspended. Don't do it again," kind of thing. You just kind of find out by accident. Now you get this dreaded 404 page or 405 page. But yeah, so top linked, that's what it was called, top linked. So I've been on LinkedIn for a very long time. And so, yeah, it was just, you know, things are very different today. But the one thing I will say that's not different is that profile. It's that foundation work. It's doing the background work. You know, who's your prospect? You know, what is it that they're typing in LinkedIn to find your product or service to solve their problem or fill some sort of big desire that they have, right? And I think people neglect doing that homework behind the scenes before they fill out their profile, you know?
Yeah.
And so, like I said before, I mean, even if you just have the traditional type resume, or you just didn't fill it out completely, I'm not saying that you won't get some quick wins or some low-hanging fruit. But if you want long-term opportunity with new business, referral partners, networking like you and I did, you know, even though the people aren't, you know, specifically your perfect client, but they might know people who are, right? It all starts with that foundation. And that's that profile.
Yeah, no, that's a great story. Well, let's shift gears and let's talk about your business and who you're looking for, and who are, you know, people listening out there. Who could they connect you to, or, you know, how would you work with them? How can they get a hold of you? All those.
Well, I've worked with everybody from the solo entrepreneur to the $50 million SaaS company. And I can tell you who I like to work with more than anything else. And so I like to work with entrepreneurs, small business owners, typically probably less than 20 employees, that are probably making healthy 6 figures, 7, 8 figures. Mm-hmm. That's my sweet spot. I do have a business partner that does work with the corporations with 100+ employees that do a lot of their LinkedIn stuff. In fact, they were a competitor of mine at one point, and we decided to collaborate. So it's nice to have that opportunity if I come into contact with those folks who have good sales teams, right?
Okay.
So I know I like to work with them. I think that's because that's kind of how I leveraged my LinkedIn, and that's how I grew my business. And I just really connect with those folks.
Well, I think, you know, I think people in that range really appreciate what you do. When you get small, like, people can't afford it. They would appreciate it, but they can't afford it. I think when you get to the larger corporations, they just don't appreciate it as much. They feel like they're doing you a favor by being a client.
Right.
And that's something I've heard consistently from people out there. I mean, it's great when you go out into business, you're immediately like, oh yeah, I want to work with the Fortune 500 company. That would be awesome. Yeah, not really. When I practiced law, there were certain clients that, too small, who couldn't pay. That's not good. Too big, then they want this break that's, you can't break even on. But the ones who were kind of in the middle, they, had the money and they were very appreciative of things. So what's the best way? Go ahead.
And I think I like that. I mean, I think we all like to be appreciated.
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, I think that's what fuels me, is knowing that I've helped somebody and they've gotten success out of me helping them.
Yeah.
Whereas a larger corporation is like, okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No, I totally hear. What's the best way to get a hold of you, Tracy?
Right now, you guys can follow me on LinkedIn. I changed my connect button to follow. However, If you hit the more right next to the follow button, then you can scroll down and hit connect. And then tell them that you heard me on Frank's show. And I'll tell you what, I'll send you something really cool for free. One of my checklists that we have that will help you get going with your profile. And also we are coming up with a new digital program for those who don't hit my coaching sweet spot. They're kind of like done with you. So it's kind of an over my shoulder digital course. And we're going to start out with your foundation work. It's going to be called the Ultimate LinkedIn Profile Makeover. And right now you can go to linkedintopublishing.com and you'll get my checklist and a copy of my best-selling book, and you'll get notified when it's ready to go.
All right. Awesome. Well, I appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Frank. Me too.
To wrap things up, remember, we're looking for some enterprising business types to join our team as franchisees of AmSpirit Business Connections. Our franchisees work with entrepreneurs, sales representatives, and professionals in their area to help them become more successful through networking and the exchange of quality business referrals in a structured weekly morning meeting. This is a unique franchise opportunity, you see, because these meetings are in the morning. A successful business type or professional can add this franchise opportunity onto what they're already doing. Again, all of our franchisees do something else. For a couple hours in the morning, a few mornings a week, these franchisees work the AmSpirit Business Connections model. The rest of the time, they're attorneys, accountants, realtors, coaches, and consultants of various kinds. The wonderful thing is that not only do our franchisees realize a financial gain from operating the AmSpirit Business Connections model, but the business networks that they build and develop become a great source of referrals for their primary business as well. Perhaps you know someone, perhaps you are that someone. Whatever the case, to learn more about the AmSpirit Business Connections franchise opportunity, please contact me using the email in the show notes or the one we provide at the end of this program.
Thanks for joining us on the Networking RX podcast. Please put what you've learned into action today and let us know if you have questions, comments, or ideas for future topics. You can email them to us at podcast@amspirit.com. That's AmSpirit.com. Finally, so you never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to the Networking RX podcast through iTunes, Overcast, or however you receive your podcasts. Now get out and network with someone.
The Networking RX podcast is the copyright production of AmSpirit Business Connection. All rights reserved.